This little talk is about the Southern Electronics Group remote HF stations, and as I said in an email, I think during the week, what do I know about this remote HF station? Bugger all. But luckily, Rob, VK6LD, who is on your screen, has built all of these and operates them. And so after 5,000 questions, I've put together enough information to talk about them. And luckily Rob is there, so the difficult questions he can answer. But that wasn't the idea. I wasn't trying to make him work any harder than he already does. The other person on screen is Gary, VK6GAL and W4GAL, WB4, I'll get it right, W4. What's your other call sign, Gary? No, you're muted. Sorry, you're muted. Press space key.
Okay, there we go. There we go.
Loud and clear.
Yeah, okay. I was doing so. Right, W4GAL.
Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't remember that, but and Gary is a typical and great user of the remote stations. In fact, he uses it every day of the week on the Shavers net on 80 meters, and there's a whole bunch of people on the Shavers net on in the morning in WA who get on. A lot of them use the remote stations either as they're for transmitting, like Gary does, of course, but others use it just to receive because the signals are so good and so clear that come through the system. There's a bunch of people who just use it as a receiver. So there you go. Righto, let's roll into it if we can. Righto, so this is how it kind of looks. So starting over here in the bottom right hand corner, here's where I live, just north of Canberra, and there's me down the bottom there. I connect to the remote HF system using a notebook computer, an IBM style notebook, because which actually Martin bought for me, 6MJ, because everything else I use an Apple Mac for, and the remote system doesn't work on Macs. So I have a notebook computer just for the remote. Okay, so signal goes into the dreaded cloud on the internet and comes out either in Carnarvon or at Rob's home in Bedfordale, and arrives down here to the users and interested people in Western Australia or around the world. So that's kind of how it appears. Let's talk about the system itself. So on my computer, this is what I can see, and this is what a user sees when they operate the remote. So what is it? It looks like a generic HF transceiver. I won't go into all the details of what it does and what the buttons do. In fact, as Rob knows, I regularly have to ask him questions. What does this button do, and what does that button do? And because I can't work it out. But anyway, it's all good fun. But it looks like a transceiver. It operates like a transceiver. You can have a Vox or push to talk or however you want. But this is the screen that the users see. Righto. So there are two remotes that the Southern Electronics Group operates at the moment. One of them is at Rob's home in Bedfordale, and Bedfordale is, as you can see on the map there, just kind of south of Roleystone and in the beautiful foothills. And the other, I'll tell you about the other remote in Carnarvon shortly. Righto, how it's all hooked together. So Rob built this unit back in 2018, and the idea was, being the Southern Electronics Group, that this system would be deployed down to Mount Barker near Albany, and hence would be operated by the Southern Electronics Group. However, obviously either Rob loved it so much or hated it so much, it never actually left his shack until very recently. So the idea was that it would become the Mount Barker remote, but it actually ended up as the Bedfordale remote, and I've got to say it works really well. So simply on the screen, hopefully folks can see my mouse here. The basis of the system is an FT991A, unlike what the picture shows, FT991 alpha transceiver, and connected to an HF antenna or various antennas, a USB connection out of the transceiver into a computer operating the remote hams server, as you can see there on Windows 10. And that server is connected to the internet via a router. And that's it. That's what VK6SR looks like. And oh, by the way, if anybody has any questions while we're going, just wave your arms around, or for those on Zoom, press your space key and unmute and ask away.
Can I ask one, please?
Yeah.
How many people can use one particular frequency?
Only one person, I think, can transmit at any time, but a lot of people can receive. And here we go, Rob. I don't know the answer to that. Is there a limit to the number of people who can connect?
I'm not sure the mark or the physical maximum. I guess it probably depends on your bandwidth, but I think some mornings there's been up to 6 people listening to it. Gary might be able to give you a little bit more detail as well. He's an end user much more than what I am.
Yeah, I think I've seen 8.
So it sounds like it's limited by the internet, not by the system. But because there is one transceiver, you can only operate on one frequency at a time, and whoever has control of the radio determines what it's doing.
It can be used by a group of people that each taking turns, like what you do on a normal radio. Correct,
and in fact the shaver's net that I mentioned before on 80 meters in the morning, that's exactly what happens. You wouldn't know if you were listening. You wouldn't know that a number of the people are using the remote. They hit send and they're on the air. So whoever hits the press to talk, I guess, is first gets to go. So yeah, a lot of people can use it in parallel as long as they're all on the same frequency. All right, everybody happy?
Mark, so you'll tell us later that the gear's moved from his shed in August, so it's already gone to a new location?
Yes, so what's happened, Paul, the FT991, I'll talk about this in a minute, the FT991 setup, which was the original setup that Rob built in 2018, it has now actually gone up to Carnarvon, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. So the Carnarvon station is this one that you can see on the screen. And the Southern Electronics Group has built a second remote system, which is still in Rob's shack. So, yep. Got that, Paul?
Yep.
Happy? Righto, excellent.
Now in Carnarvon, for instance, now we have got Carnarvon station there, so the antenna is in Carnarvon.
Yep.
If you're transmitting in Perth, would it be better if it's in Carnarvon where we can get like the Eastern Europe, for instance, or Italy, or anywhere around Europe, or would that be essential for it to have it?
It's probably a bit early to answer that question, actually, Ken, in terms of which system is going to perform better. Certainly, Carnarvon on VHF would have a greater opportunity for trans-equatorial propagation and things like that than Perth would. But then again, yeah, on HF, which would work better? Well, I would say we don't know yet, and there's room for experimenting. And of course, you can fairly quickly swap from one to the other. I guess if you had two computers, like Gary does, you could probably run both and connect to both in parallel and see which is better. So I guess, yeah, there's potential there for that.
Mark?
Yeah.
I've worked Croatia from Carnarvon, and I was at both stations.
Okay, yep. Very good.
That's good.
Okay, any more questions before we move on?
What antennas have you got?
We'll get to that, Jeff.
Okay.
I'd never have a discussion about a radio station without talking about antennas and grounds. We'll get to that for both. Thanks, but thanks for the question, mate. Okay, on. Righto. So this is what it looks like. This is what the new station looks like at Rob's home QDH. So FT991 Alpha, which Baz knows very well because he's the proud owner of one of these as well. Still going all right, Baz? You haven't let the smoke out like me?
No, the smoke's all contained.
Excellent, very good. And the next to it is the computer, little server, and looks like it's connected via a Wi-Fi. And we've just had somebody else join the group. Let's have a look and see who that is. Jerry's connecting. Righto. Okay, so that's what the system actually looks like at Rob's end. And the little box on top, Gary and I get very excited about this. This is the most important piece, I think, of the whole setup. It's the CW interface, highly technically arranged, as you can see, by Rob, with one transistor out of the USB to serial adapter and into the keyhole of the radio. Highly technical, but it works. And I have, and Gary has, something similar for connecting our keys into the system at this end. Same sort of thing, serial interface, and the key connects. Righto, and g'day, Jerry. I see you've connected. We have no video, but I see that you are there. We'll keep going. Righto, on. Now, Jeff, this is the VK6SR antenna in a Marconi T configuration. So that's 60 meters of wire fed by a single piece of wire, roughly vertically. And I'll tell you a bit more about that antenna next time around. But it's 60 meters of wire, up 12 meters, connected to a automatic ATU. And there are 3 40-meter ground radials, and which Rob cut up a 40-metre extension cord to make. Is that right? Is that what you? Wasn't it?
It was actually, yes, it was a mains cable to a submersible pump
Oh, right.
that was replaced. So the submersible pump was replaced, and the electrician replaced the cable down to it as well. So I had 40 metres of cable. What I was going to say is, yes, so sorry, Mark, take over. The Marconi's 60 metres horizontal and about 12 metres vertical.
Very good. Okay, thank you. And g'day, Jerry. I see you've just connected there. G'day, mate.
Hi, guys.
Righto, on. So there is a shot from underneath, so that you can see the this is the vertical, the radiating bit of the antenna, and here are the is the more or less horizontal 60-metre piece. Beautiful blue sky in Western Australia. Looks like this is for those with an agricultural background, you could probably recognize what this thing is that I'm circling with my mouse. Anybody want to guess at what that is?
Electric fence.
Electric fence. Yeah.
There you go. Electric fence. It's a gate. It's to connect electric fence across a gate. It's an insulated thing with a hook on one end. There you go. I've got a lot of them. I've never thought about using them for an antenna.
And more importantly, Mark's got a spring on the other end that the rope ties to, so when the trees move, it just has a bit of give in it, that's all. So
yeah, little spring that end. Yeah, good use. There you go. Righto, here's the ATU. It's in the shade a bit there, but you can see the rat's nest of ground wires, and here is the feeder which runs up to the antenna. Righto, Marconi T. I've got to say, I'd never heard of a Marconi T antenna before, but thank you to, this is VK6YSF, I think, his website, and it talks about what a Marconi T antenna is. It's a variation on a loaded vertical with a capacity hat, bit like the, is it the VK? Is it the 6WF or 6WN transmitter up there in Wanneroo? I can't remember. Whichever one has that capacity hat on it. So a shortened vertical, and the horizontal piece provides some capacitance to ground, let's say, and effectively it allows you to have a quarter wave type antenna without actually being a quarter wavelength long. So it effectively it's a bit like a loading coil, except it's at the top and it's a capacity hat. Anyway, hey, it works. So I've learned something about a antenna called a Marconi T. Any other comments, Rob, on the Marconi T? Like, what made you think of?
Well, essentially, I had it originally as a doublet, but it wouldn't tune very well on 160 metres, probably because it's, I don't know, just near resonance, I think, and the antenna tuner had a real hard time sort of finding the sweet spot for it.
Right.
So it was a doublet fitted with open wire feeder, but I was looking at the inverted L. So basically, it's an inverted L, but the top hat sort of makes a T instead of an L. So I took off the open wire feeder, dropping down to the tuner, and just made that a single wire and shorted the horizontal element, and it worked pretty well after that. So it was sort of because it wasn't tuning. It was just fidgety on 160 metres to find a good match. So it sort of came about by accident, really, to be a Marconi T. I didn't know it was a Marconi T till I sort of started looking around at what I actually had to give it a name. And I found the Marconi T. I think you got a picture of it later, the old picture of it. I think, is that right, Mark? Was that the picture you got?
Sorry,
There's a really old picture of a Marconi T, I think back in the days of Marconi.
Yes. No, I don't. Sorry, I didn't use that picture. No.
That's okay.
You're right.
Okay, I was going to say Marconi Ts. You will also see around some of the airports. They use them for the NDBs. The ones around the airports have 3 horizontal wires, sort of parallel to each other, and a single vertical dropping down. So that's where they're used on the low bands there. And I realised afterwards that's what it was. There's one at the airport in Albany. There was one at the airport at Jandakot, but they use them for NDBs because obviously around airports they can't have tall towers on VLF. So this is a way of getting a vertical omni coverage around an airport for an NDB.
Yep, very good. And if it works anything like an inverted L, Jeff knows I'm a bit of a fan of inverted Ls. Yeah, no wonder it works so well. All right, thanks, mate. Okay, on. So back to the station setup at VK6SR. Obviously it will work on all HF bands, and as Rob said, including 160 meters. This one can also operate on VHF and UHF, 6 meters on receive only. So there's, but somewhat limited. There is no tuning for 6 meters. On 2 meters, it operates and is used regularly as a transceiver on FM, particularly. To a collinear up 40 meters, 40 feet, not 40 meters, up 40 feet, or a disc cone that Rob can connect if you ask him nicely, and on 70 centimeters receive only. And I've used this system from time to time to access the repeater in Mandurah. Comes through very well. I can hear Tony on the slow Morse on the Morse training on 14655. So yeah, works really well. So and I've often heard people just using it for accessing the Perth repeaters and so on 2 meters. So there you go. Probably gets just as much use on VHF as on HF. Righto. Now let's talk about the other system. As I said, Rob built the original setup with an Yaesu FT991, and rather than sending it down to Mount Barker, which was its original home, or intended home, it's ended up in August. It was sent up to Carnarvon. To the Carnarvon Space and Technology Museum, which I've got to say is a bit of a coup. So this is Carnarvon's #1 tourist destination, and quite amazing that the Southern Electronics Group has managed to find a home in this setup. And you see the antenna there. I'll tell you more about it as we go. But so the VK6 CRO remote is now operational, fully operational from Carnarvon. It was on low power on 80 meters for a while there, but Rob's got that all sorted out, and it's now working. And I was using it tonight for the slow Morse. Righto. So this is what the setup looks like at VK6 CRO. So the FT991, the Yaesu transceiver, you can see there. There is also an all-star 70 centimeter repeater. also has been set up there. Yeah, here's the offending people who, 4 of them, Bruce VK6XZ, Duncan 6GHZ, Peter 6LB. Now Peter works there, does he not, Rob? Is that?
No, Peter travelled up from Perth with this, but
he came up from Perth. Okay, sorry, I had a feeling he had come up to. Sorry, that he worked there, but okay. So this is the team of 4 offenders who set the gear up. And this is the configuration. So Jeff, to answer your question, the antenna, 40 metre end fed long wire in inverted V configuration, and 12 metres at the midpoint, about 5 metres up at the far end, and ground radials. There's a second antenna available, a dipole, inverted V again, 10 metres in the centre. And for 2 metres, a halo antenna, horizontally polarised omni for SSB. Now, the call sign, as you can see there.
Yes, please.
Oh, yes, please. Thanks, Jerry. You want to mute?
It's a cup of tea. It's not wine.
Oh, no. Well, we've all got our cup of tea. You might want to mute there, Jerry, so we don't.
That's all right. Yeah.
We don't cause more trouble. Anyway, the call sign VK6CRO. When this station was a NASA space tracking station, CRO was the call sign of that station, and it operated 1963 to 1975, as you can see. Okay, I'll show you more closely, but this is the tower with, might just be able to make out one of the antennas there. I do have more close-ups though. Righto, here we go. So the inverted V, if you could see the cursor, that's the 80-40 meter inverted V. The halo is there where the cursor is. A little thing. Nice sign. Look at that. Okay, up close. The trapped dipole there, a long wire coming in. As I said, inverted V disappears off the other direction. And the all-star node is this little guy up here. Here's the halo up close, or a halo up close. Looks a bit like one of your magnetic loops, doesn't it, Jeff? But not fed quite the same. Yep, slightly closer. You can see the halo in here. Righto, so the coverage from the all-star node, the 70 centimeters. Sorry, Rob, one more question. What sort of range are we looking at here? What about?
About 20 to 30 kilometres.
Okay.
That's for a mobile.
Okay, thank you. So the all-star system is the subject of another tech talk some other time. But it's a networking system, I guess a little bit like, I forgot what it's called, not Echolink, the other one, IRLP, a little bit like that, but more useful. Allows you to connect your repeaters together very nicely and easily. Righto, so once again, this is where we've got to. So here's me very happily in my my not Radio Shack. I talk to my notebook computer, goes into the internet, comes out at Rob's place or at Carnarvon, and hence on the air, and we can talk to people in Western Australia. Now, here's the crux of the matter. How do you get on? How do you do this? It's not too hard. Even I could do it. So to operate the remote, you need to register on this system called Remote Hams, remotehams.com. So just type in remotehams.com. It'll take you to this page, and where I'm circling here, this is the sign up area. Click on the button, and it takes you through the process of verifying who you are, that you're a licensed radio amateur, and the system will allow you then to connect to the remote ham system. Having done the registration, the next thing is to download the software to your computer. As you can see in very small writing here, Windows XP Vista 7, Windows 7 or 8, and I'm using it on Windows 10. It also works on Android phones or Android tablets, but as I said before, it does not work on Macs. Anyway, so you download the software, run it on your computer, and it works. Amazing. And it's free. So whoops. Back up. It's the wrong button there. One of the tricky things about Apple mice like this one. No moving parts, but it's very easy to get it wrong. Righto. So you download the software onto your computer and run it. And as I said, it just works. Righto. Yep, that's about it. Okay. So here's a screenshot of my computer that Martin bought for me from the Mandurah Musketeers, as you can see. Cost me $100. Thank you, Martin. Beautiful.
Got to be a pensioner though to get one.
What's that?
You've got to be a pensioner to get one.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
I am a pensioner.
So no, some of the seniors card, just reduce the seniors.
The seniors card.
Yeah, my wife's got a seniors card.
Oh.
Yeah.
Righto. It's a terrific system. So this mob takes computers and refurbishes them and sells them to people for $100. It's great. Anyway, so thank you, Martin, for buying this computer for me. Works really well. So as I said, I just use it for the remote hams. So here is where my cursor is. This is what it looks like. RCFORB, RCFORB. I don't know what that stands for. I can't remember. It means something to whoever produced it, but it's that is the what it looks like. You double click on that and it opens. So what we're looking at here is the page that lists all of the stations that are connected around the world to this system. Now I've got my favorites up the top. As you can see there, VK6CRO, VK6SR. The Hills Amateur Radio Group has one as well. And there's probably others around Australia. So all you do, if I want to connect to VK6CRO, I double click on that line and it opens. And as I say down the bottom, some of these systems are open to anybody to use. Some of them are for members only. And like the Southern Electronics Group's ones, there are hybrids where, for instance, Southern Electronics Group, you can receive on these without being a member. Pay your membership, and you can then transmit. Great system. Righto. Now, when you first try and connect to one of the Southern Electronics Group systems, it'll come up with this screen which says you must request club membership before control is allowed. Hit request permission. Rob will flash to his phone, and if he thinks you're a nice person, he might connect you. If he doesn't think you're a nice person, you're out of luck. But anyway, he just does the tick the box, and you're then connected. So as I said, some are for members only, and others are privately owned. There's a couple in the US where I was talking to folks on a 40-meter net from the VK6XT remote at Broome Hill, which is the one I used to use, and they said, "Oh, you know, so and so has a remote. Why don't you connect to them? And somebody else has a remote. Why don't you connect to them?" And they're very happy for an Aussie to connect in and have some fun. So yeah, great system.
Mark, you're talking about connecting in and that you can have, before you set up to, I think Gary set up to eight listening. Are there any conventions? So we understand that only one person can transmit, understand that. Are there any conventions that people have set up so that, you know, I mean, you go on for 15 minutes and have a play and then hand it over to somebody else, or how does that all work?
Not that I'm aware, and Rob can answer this more bettery than I can, but it seems with the Southern Electronics Group, for instance, it kind of self-regulates, and everybody's been, you know, very gentleman and ladylike, without needing specific rules. But of course there's no reason why you couldn't. Rob, your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess probably the less rules, the better there, Mark. But there's a few, what could you say, quirks within the software. So it's a little bit hard to explain, but authorised users, or, you know, sort of club members, if there's club members and like shortwave or non-club members, call it shortwave listeners, on at the same time, only club members will have control of the station. So I guess if a shortwave listener comes on and there's no one on, they'll turn the radio on, they can tune it up or whatever else. When a club member comes on, well, then they no longer have tuning sort of rights or anything like that. The system will halt them from doing that. So they're a visitor, so they then lose control of what they want to do, because a fully sort of fledged club member, the system gives them priority over visitors. But as for the rest of it, I've never really shared it too much. If someone's on using it, it's probably something I don't want to listen to, so I'll go and connect to one of the other ones, or leave it for the time being. Gary shares in the morning on the Shavers net there, and he might also have a view, but I think it's pretty well self-regulating. You know, there doesn't need to be rules about it. If there's a net or you know, like your slow CW things on, people naturally just give way to those things that have higher priority than themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. Any thoughts from a user perspective from these?
Yeah, it's as Rob said, the Shavers net works very well, and most of the people on the Shavers net are just using it as a receive, and they transmit from their homes. So that works just super, because we can hear better probably than most people are hearing on their home rig. I've used it quite a bit in the U.S. and other places, and the difference is that the people that are on there with me, I don't know. Whereas on the Shavers net, I know everybody. But on U.S. stations, They've always been nice, and I think a 10-minute time frame is been used. If you use it longer than 10 minutes, you turn it over to somebody else.
Yep, that sounds reasonable.
Mark, can you show us how you log on to it? To one of them, any of them?
Yeah, I will actually. I'm about to give you a live demonstration.
Good.
I hope if I can make the technology work. I will do just that, Jeff. Actually, thanks for that information, Rob. But I didn't know that members actually, once a member was connected, that shortwave listeners actually couldn't control anymore. I didn't know that, because I've connected and there's been other people who weren't members, and I wondered why they just sat there and didn't tune anything. Didn't tune. Well, they couldn't because I was connected. I didn't know that. There you go. Righto, on. Thanks for the question,
Mark,
Jeff.
just one
Yep.
question. If you're using it to listen and transmitting from your own rig,
Yep.
is there any feedback loop, audio feedback loop coming out of the computer and back into the rig?
I think the answer to that is that headphones always work, but there will be a delay, just a normal delay through the internet, Martin. So I doubt that there would ever be a situation where the delay was so short that that you'd get feedback. But and Rob, that's your experience?
Yeah, there's also a mute button on the radio window, on where the frequency display that is. There's a mute button there, so you can mute what comes out of the remote, so you don't sort of get feedback or start getting distracted by listening to your own voice coming through.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think for PARG members, this is kind of where I wanted to get to. The Shavers Net, the people on the Shavers Net, a lot of them use the remote HF station because their homes, the 80 meters, for instance, at their homes, 80 meters is just too noisy, or because of hearing problems, they have trouble with single sideband audio, whereas somehow, not sure how, but the audio that comes through this system is better. And a lot of the people on the Shavers Net find it a terrific aid to use it as a receiver. And as Gary said, when they go to transmit, they're actually transmitting from their home. If they're members, they could transmit from here, but why not? It's a great system. And yeah. Anyway, okay, on. Right, so this is as I said, this is what it looks like. And the caveat, as I said down the bottom, these things aren't perfect. And I don't think you'll ever get a remote system that is as nice to use as a real transceiver, unless you've got, I think actually, Gary, you might have, is it a Elecraft radio that you use with a remote?
But only if it's a K3 at the other end.
Right, okay. So there you have a real radio, but it happens to be connected to a remote. But for this sort of situation where you're looking at a computer, it doesn't have quite the nice unctuous feel that a real radio has. Tuning, for instance, I'm pointing at my screen, you can't see it. To tune, you can either select the up and down on frequencies here, or turn the knob using your mouse. And I tell you what, after a while, that becomes a real pain. Trying to turn the knob with your mouse. But anyway, so as I said before, you have all the functionality of, or nearly all the functionality of a real transceiver. You can see the options here. So is this, yeah, this is 6SR. Antenna tuner here, where my cursor is. you can have memories or VFO. You've actually got a second VFO down here. You can set a frequency on the second VFO, and you can swap from one to the other. Blah blah blah. The test button. If there are several people connected to the remote, you can talk to the other people. If you hit the test button, then when you transmit, only the people who are connected to the remote can hear you. It doesn't actually go out on transmit. So you can kind of use it if you've got a bunch of people doing testing or whatever. You can talk to each other. There is also over here, you can see the chat window. So you can type notes to other users through the chat window. You can also, for sending CW, you can enter text, CW text, oh no, the CW text goes in there. I can't remember, Gary. Anyway, you can enter text and hit return, and it'll actually send that that text at a speed that you've defined. Okay. Yep, pretty much the same as.
Sorry, Mark. Is there a chance if I want to use it, can I scan the frequency or the band?
I don't believe so, Ken. Rob, does the presumably the 991 has a scan function, but it's not replicated. Is that right?
I think it can scan memories, but no, it can't sort of scan two band limits. It doesn't have a waterfall or anything like that. So that is one of the limitations, because my shack transceiver does have a waterfall, and it makes it so much easier. But I normally hop onto one of the Kiwi SDRs around here, and I can see up and down the band, and then tune on the remote hams.
Righto. And in fact, for January's Tech Talk, I'd like to talk about the Kiwi SDRs. In fact, that exact system that Rob mentioned for doing that kind of thing. So yeah, Ken, the answer is no. All right. Okay, on. Now, so this this is at Rob's place. What's wrong with this picture? People in Mandurah, people everywhere. Look at that. S2 noise level on 80 meters. How nice is that? Now, I live out in the middle of nowhere, and I've got, S9 plus whatever because of all the switch mode power supplies. But this is great, and it's back to how 80 meters used to be, how it should be, nice and quiet during the day.
So the question is how?
They achieve that. Yeah.
Sorry, how? I've been a lot of good luck, and a lot of ferrites on the other things, hunting stuff down around that does cause noise. So it only takes one device to bring it home and plug it in. And I had an Ethernet switch that wiped out 160 meters, but once you notice that you got to go hunting it and terminate it.
So, Rob, how do you get on with your family?
All good.
Yeah.
They know who the boss is.
So they can't plug into the end.
No.
So and to continue the story, when the Carnarvon remote was put in, for the first week or so, there was an S9 plus noise level, and so Rob just flashed up there again. How far is it? 800 kilometers or something. Anyway, just
about 900 from here, maybe a bit more.
900, just flashed up the road, 900 kilometers, and tracked down. It was a LED lighting system, yeah.
Power supplies to LED strip lights.
that was the main offender.
Yes, yeah. There's about at least a dozen of them throughout the building. There's probably 6 that we've got the worst ones, but ran out of toroids.
Righto, and we'll have a look. So when I was on 80 meters tonight, the noise level was about 5 or 6, and that was kind of static type noises, not switch mode power supply. But anyway, we'll have a look at that a little later. Righto, thank you. Righto. Now, as I said, you can also run the remote hams on a Android phone. In fact, Paul will recognise this.
Ah, it's an old Samsung Galaxy phone.
It's an old Samsung Galaxy with a smashed screen, Paul.
Cracked screen, yes, I recognise that one.
You recognise that one. Anyway, when I so that was Paul's old phone, so when I first got on the remote hams, that's what I was using, and it has it's on a phone. Obviously, it's very small, but full, enough functionality to be able to operate. Righto. Righto. Now I'm going to see if I can be very clever here and bring up the remote on my notebook. Bear with me. What I'll have to do, I'll stop screen. Talk amongst yourselves, folks, while I fiddle with this.
Yeah, the toilet's in the corridor. It's turn the light on.
Righto. Now,
still loud and clear. It's pretty good.
Only when you're speaking.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Thank you, Martin. Righto. Now, can you all see the remote ham screen here with the cursor on it?
Yep.
Okay. Yes. Very good. Very good. Very good. Righto. So, as I said, let me just get rid of the screen. If we scroll down, there are gazillions of them all over the place. And in fact, if we sort by alphabetically, here's what we have in Australia, and in VK6 seems to be overly represented. So that's the Hills Amateur Radio Club, the Northern Corridor Club, and so on. So there you go. All right, let's go back up to the top here. Say again.
Does that make us the only WA club without one?
Well, wireless isn't there, VHF isn't there.
VK6 CRO, we might as well use that one. Okay, so as I said, to launch the system, just double click on it. There it comes up. Could you hear the noise?
No.
So there was audio coming through, which I've just turned down. Did that come through the system or not?
No.
No. Okay. It's probably.
Audience turned down.
Maybe, Mark, you might need to make your audio out. Oh, yes, just to the left there, your audio output might need to be run, but you might have to restart. No, you haven't got anything else there. So I have a virtual audio cable with mine as well, which can then pipe through to other apps.
Yeah, yes, and I have an external mixer that I could do that with. All right, let's not fiddle around with it. But trust me, I can hear the remote, and put it on SSB. Let's have a bit of a tune around, see what we can hear. Very quiet in Western Australia at the moment. But okay, so you can't hear the audio. I can hear it through my headphones, and it's just yeah, it's just working as I said before. I can tune the antenna over here. Push the button. SWR 1-to-1 it says. And we're on the air. If I push the transmit button and talk, it will go out on air. Various functions available here. As you can see, power. I can change the amount of power, mic gain, squelch, blah, 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 all the usual things. CW speeds, 24 words per minute. Yes, it'd be nice if I could share the audio with you. But anyway, there is lots of static crashes around.
Delta.
There you go. I can hear you, Rob. Well done.
Good evening there, Mark. Yes, you can probably hang on. I'll just mute this one.
It's okay, Rob. VK6LD from VK6QI via the VK6CRO remote. So presumably you're using the SR remote, Rob. Is that right? Go ahead.
Yeah, Roger, you're using the SR remote here in Perth. So yeah, you can see the signal strength going up and down there, and obviously you can see the audio shape as well there on the ticker going along. So yep, all good. All right, I'll go back to Zoom there. VK6QI, VK6LD.
Righto. So thanks, Rob. That's terrific. So what you couldn't hear is that I could hear Rob, and he was S9 plus from his remote, or the remote at his place, to the Carnarvon remote. So there you go. Works very well. Righto. While I have this live on screen, is there any questions before I go back to the presentation?
How much time you got the delay that's up there? So how much time is the delay in so for instance, if I'm talking to you now, Rob, how much delay have I got for you to for me to receive your transmission?
I can probably answer that, Ken. It depends. So when Rob was transmitting there, now bear in mind that I was listening to him through Zoom, and I was also listening to him through the remote, and it was about a second after, which means during contests and that sort of thing, yes, there is going to be a delay, but it's just one of those things. And from what I've heard of the Shavers Net, yeah, people don't even notice it. It's you know, maybe a maximum of a second or so. Yep.
Right.
So
you spoke before about the CW interface and showed us the little kit, transistor kit sitting on top of the transceiver, and then you said that you can type in messages and send it. But as we know, you've got a phantom dash in when you're sending CW. Is that via this remote? Is it coming in through there, and how does the CW work with a key, or how do you do it?
Yeah, all right. What I'll do, Jeff, thank you. I'll stop sharing this and go back to normals. Just bear with me while I mute and unmute over here. Righto. Let me get rid of this one. So can everybody hear me now again?
Yep.
Thanks, Gary. Right, just need to make it a bit quieter over here. At my age, operating two computers with two mice where the mouses are back to front. So that computer over there had this mouse over here, and this computer had that. I was getting confused, but anyway, I'm back with you. To operate on CW, to answer Jeff's question, I use one of these. Jeff will be familiar with this because he's got the key exactly the same, and it is connected to. No, I'd have to pull my Radio Shack apart. But remember, I showed you that picture of Rob's interface on top of the FT991A with the USB to serial interface little box. I have exactly the same thing at this end without that transistor, and the Morse key connects a couple of serial, a couple of the terminals on the serial side together, and that's it. It makes Morse code. So that's one way of doing it.
It's a serial to USB.
The Carnarvon remote, it does it perfectly well. On the 6SR remote, as those who have listened on 80 meters, when I use it using the straight key, there's an interesting fault that Rob and I have scratched our heads about a bit, where the system introduces phantom dashes just for no particular reason, and we have some thoughts as to why that happens. Doesn't happen on the Carnarvon remote, and I used it tonight for the slow CW session, and it was perfect for the whole time. So as I said, yes, Gary.
I just would comment that I have never used a key. I've always used the keyboard, and I don't have any trouble with either remote.
Sorry, Gary, I had you muted. Could you say that again? Everybody else heard it, but I didn't.
Okay, I was just saying that I don't use a key. I only use the keyboard, and each of the remotes has worked fine for me. I don't have a problem.
Yeah. So as I said before, you can there's like a text entry area on the remote where you can just type away on the keyboard and hit enter, and it'll send that line of text perfectly. So there you go.
Decode as well.
Does it decode? No.
Well, why not?
Why would you want it?
Why?
Number one earlug. There you go. Righto. So back to the presentation, if I can work out how to share my screen again. Here it is.
Righto. So that would be about all I'm going to talk about tonight. As I mentioned before, a big thank you to Rob, not only for coming up tonight, but also for building and managing these things, and providing me and I'm guessing other confused users with some great sage advice. Now, all of the technical material that I've talked about tonight, Rob has provided. So thank you, because as I said, I'm just a user. I know nothing about how the system works. So it's been great. The other thing, I'll go out on a limb here, Rob. I'm suggesting you do much of the member-facing work for the Southern Electronics Group. Certainly, all the material that I see seems about what the group's organising, like the ham feasts, seems to come from you. Would that be? Yeah,
there's a few others in the background, but I tend to be the mover and shaker or the motivator. I don't know how that ends up, but I do a little bit anyway. I don't do it all.
Well done. Thank you for doing that for the Southern Electronics Group, and we'll give a little plug for the group. It has a ham feast coming up soon, which you're just sorting out the dates. It's going to be at Katanning, is that right?
Sorry, you caught me cup of tea time.
I know, I saw that.
15th of November at Quinnanup, which is it's a little mill town south of Manjimup.
Quinnanup, okay. So and as you can gather from the name Ham Feast, it's all about getting together, having something to eat, having something to drink, sharing the company of hopefully some other interesting radio amateurs. So from what I've seen of photographs of those events in the past, very popular, a lot of fun. Wish I was there, but I can't. So there you go. Well done. Righto. So that's all I plan to talk about tonight. In summary, a great system. I believe I'd like to think that many of our PARG members would find it useful, either just as a receiver, or why not spend the $30 or $35, whatever it is per year, join the Southern Electronics Group, and then you have, you're supporting a great system, but like me, you can operate this equipment and have a lot of fun in doing so. So there you go. Little plug for the Southern Electronics Group. Righto, questions? How about we all unmute and take some questions?
Silence.
Looks like we've been asking him all the way through. No, still not entirely sure myself, so I'll have to get in there and have a play. With the CW, Gary, that's obviously why a couple of times when I've tried to work your CW has been perfect, and it's obviously because it's coming out of the computer as opposed to mine, which has been all over the place like a bloody dog's hind leg.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll give that one a crack, and I guess Mark, it'll be a pretty simple circuit for that connection to the USB, or Rob, I should say, to the USB serial port.
It is a very simple system, Jeff. Even I managed to build one, and it just works fine, except for that fault with the Bedfordale remote, but on the Carnarvon one it works fine. And as Gary has said, you can always type the text, and it comes out perfectly. So I think the first time I met Gary was on the on the Slow CW contest where he was operating on the remote. So yeah, so it's all good. Actually, one interesting thing with the remotes on CW, if there are two people who are using the remote on CW, you actually can't hear each other. Whoever's transmitting will hear the side tone. Anybody else, actually, you don't get the side tone, which is a little tricky because you can't hear what those people are saying about you. But what I do is use a public software-defined radio to listen in parallel, and that solved that problem. And as I said, I'll talk about that in January's Tech Talk.
Also, Mark, you use it for I don't know, for checking your signal strength across the country, don't you?
Absolutely. It doesn't get any better than that. If now, am I getting out? Well, hold on. I'll connect to a station on the other side of the country and actually have a listen. Oh, look, I can hear myself. Must be working.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if I could do the same from portable. You know, with 5 watts out. We need to get an Android phone, but that could be useful as well. Yeah.
Yep, and yeah, it's a terrific system, and it's like the world's fanciest field strength meter.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just impressed overall, Mark. Well, obviously it's designed and fairly easy to use, and in the spirit of amateur, everything's provided free of charge, which is just another amazing thing about our hobby, that you've got the gear, you can access all sorts of amazing stuff. The same as Echolink is free of charge. You've got a license, you can go in. And this seems to be a radio version of Echolink, where there's points all around the world you can head through.
Absolutely, Paul. And as I said, when I first started using remotes, it was the remote belonged to Rick VK6XT down at Broome Hill, and so it was his own system, and but he was very nice to let me use it for a while, and I could talk to people on the other side of the world or in the US on 40 meters just so easily. Using your old Android phone. just unbelievable. So yeah, I think it's a great
system, a bit like Echolink in a warped sort of way.
Yeah.
It needs RF plus internet.
Yep. Slightly more fun than Echolink, of course, because you're actually playing with, the radio controls sort of thing, and you have a VFO and so on, as opposed to just connecting to stations on Echolink.
Yes, yep, absolutely.
And as I said, it's free to connect to the remote hams system to register. If you click on the VK6SR or the 6CRO, the request will come through to Rob, and he may or may not let you listen, but for listeners, that's it's there and free. But as I said, I think spend the $35 or $30 a year and join the Southern Electronics Group, and you have a wonderful resource at your fingertips.
Mark, does it go 24/7?
Yeah, absolutely. Except when the internet's down, which is pretty rare, eh, Rob?
It does happen, of course, normally at the most inconvenient time, or I'm doing some changes to my home network, or my power's out for extended periods and that. So look, yeah, I leave it on most of the time. I'm just in the process actually of gathering all the bits and pieces up to put it on solar and 12-volt batteries to, hopefully to just make it, decrease my power bill, and somebody gave me a solar panel, and I picked up a couple of batteries at the right price, and a controller. So I'm going to try and run it all on solar power. We'll see how that goes.
There you go. Even more opportunities. I think just thinking back over the last few months, it's been very occasional that for some reason the remote wasn't there or wasn't or wouldn't connect, and it's as Rob said, he was doing something, changing the configuration, or watching Netflix, or something that stole the internet. But it's effectively 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So yeah, it's a great system, Ken.
Rob, Jeff here. Look, yeah, I noticed you've got the Yaesus, the 991 Alpha. Have you solved the perennial question of whether it's a 991 Alpha or ICOM 7300, or is it just that the former have got UHF, VHF, or Yaesu your preference? But how have you found them? I mean, you're obviously using them.
Well, that is the conundrum for me there, Jeff, because I'm very much an ICOM person. I say that Yaesu means doorstop in Japanese, but I wouldn't. It is really because it is a shack in the box. It's 160 metres to 70 centimetres, all mode in one box. Is the reason why it's there. Yes, if ICOM did something similar, I would probably heartbeat have bought ICOMs, but because Yaesu offer obviously HF 6 metres, 270 all in one box, it is the choice. That said, we've got a third remote station that will be online in the next few months. That's going to be an ICOM 90. If you've been listening to the news, the VK6 news, that's going to be an ICOM 9700 in Albany, purely a VHF UHF remote station for working decks across the Great Australian Bight.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's a ringing endorsement, mate. That particularly up in Carnarvon, that you've got the thing remote, people relying on it, and you're using that the doorstop, as you call it in Japanese. But yeah, there's a few other members have got it. As you got one, Jerry, I see you're still there. Jerry, you picked up one, didn't you? Or did you get the ICOM 7300?
7300, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Well, great. Any other questions online? Jerry, who else is there? John, you still there? Any questions? No? Still there. Well, listen, on behalf of the club, Rob, we'd like to to thank you for the great initiative, and I must confess that I've heard Mark using it for some time and hadn't given any attention to understand fully what he was talking about and how it works. But as a consequence of the talk tonight, got a very good idea of what you put together there, and as Paul said, in the best and true traditions of amateur radio, a great system. So congratulations and our thanks, from the club to you for putting that together. And I guess also thank you, Rob, for allowing Mark to do the presentation on your behalf there. And you must have felt like jumping in there and telling us how it's done. But anyway, great, and thanks very much, Mark, for pulling that together. You've been talking about it for a long while, and it makes a lot more sense to me personally. I'm guessing to everybody else. So thanks very much, gents, and Gary. Thanks very much for gracing us with your presence.
Does Jerry want to speak, please?
Oh, Jerry, you're going, or are you?
No. I've just acknowledging. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that's terrific, and thanks, Jeff, and as I said, thanks, Rob, for all of your technical advice. And I guess I could have asked Rob to give this presentation, and I'm sure he would have done it a lot smoother and more technical like than I could do it. But I think he's a fairly busy fellow from the looks of all the work he's done. So that's, I'm sure, the last thing he would want on his plate is to do this. So thanks for all your help, Rob. Much appreciated. And Gary, for getting up so early, 7 o'clock in the morning. Well done.
Yes.
And we look forward, Gary, we look forward to the next corroboree, the Slow CW corroboree on the 4th of December. It's 7 a.m. in the morning, so 7 p.m. the day before at your end. So that should be great.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, it's all yours.
Thanks, Vince. It's getting on to the witching hour. I notice in your part of the world, Mark. The rest of us, yeah, it's just normal. So we might grab a brew and yeah.
Cool.
Good on you. Thanks very much.
Thanks all.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, super.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
See you guys.
Cheers.
See ya.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Well, this is different from the SDR stuff. That there's one out at something we was using at Baruna or somewhere out there. Wasn't there another?
I didn't realise it was
6XT.
Sorry?
Was that 6XT?
Yeah, it might have been. But that's another one of these.
I didn't see it on the screen though. I didn't see XT up there.
It might not be on there.
Removed it.
Interesting that the amateur radio clubs around the state, Albany, Hills, and CIG have all got them. We don't.
Is that a twinkle in your eye, Martin? As if you haven't got enough to do.
No, I guess the issue for us is where would you put it that would have no noise.
Well, yeah, but you see what Rob was saying is, yeah, he's got noise. That's why the question I had about that space station. You think that'd be the noisiest place on Christendom? You'd go up there and just quieten it down. So, if you've got the time and the inclination, you go around and quiet
That
stuff.
Carnarvon place is only a museum, but it's not real. Sorry, it's not real.
It's still a museum.
There'd be stuff there.
Yeah, but how much is turned on? But I'm not trying to ruin it down, but it's just a museum, isn't
I'm
it?
surprised they've got an Atlas rocket standing out front.
Yeah.
How did they manage that?
Where do you find those?
Florida?
Yeah. Yeah.
They did get Buzz Aldrin out there to open them.
Right.
Maybe he brought it with him in his pocket.
Yeah, so we were just talking about that the other one you were using a while back at Waruna, or yeah.
That was at Broome Hill. So yeah, Rick has taken the remote off the air. He's now using it for Whisper, I think. So,
yeah.
so it's not.
I thought there was another one. There was another one. I thought it was Waruna or.
What's it? Can't say it. Waruna is a software-defined radio system, and I'd like to talk about that in the January meeting. So as same sort of thing, TechTalk, because I've found that those SDRs are just brilliant. Again, good signals, no noise, and you have like the waterfall type display. So tonight, for instance, with the Slow CW, although I was transmitting from Carnarvon, I was monitoring using one of those SDRs, and I could see, people on the different frequencies because the waterfall display was showing the dots and dashes. So it's just brilliant.
The SDR is not working on that same software.
No, it's a different system. The common public ones, the system is called Kiwi SDR, and surprisingly, comes from New Zealand. And it sounds like it's and I've got to do all the research, but it sounds like you spend some money, you get a little box, you put an aerial into it and internet in the other end, and it just works. So, magic. But anyway,
Yeah. Okay.
I need to do a bit of research, and so I can talk about it in January.
Okay. All right. I can wait.
So in terms of the next Tech Talk, I've had a couple of questions about how the ionospheric prediction system works. So if you guys are happy, I'll talk about the HF prediction system that the Bureau of Meteorology provides free of charge.
We all know how it works, smoke and mirrors, like everything else, bloody Bureau of Meteorology.
Yeah.
I'm way out of time, but where are we on the 11-year cycle now, or down, or up? Coming up, right?
Just coming out of the doldrums. Just.
Okay.
But it's going to get better, and I mean, as Jeff said, Ken, as he said, last weekend or weekend before last, we had a field day, and poor old Jeff went out there with his portable radio and didn't hear a cracker, not a thing, which is such a pain. I mean, you know, I live in the eastern states, as you know, and portable operation, it's just like chalk and cheese. There are people there all the time and on Morse code and talking to each other. It's, oh, well, there you go. There's some advantages to living in the eastern states.
Yeah.
Not many, just one or two.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay.
Righto. Cup of tea time.
Yeah. Well, that's right. Yeah. It's witching hour for you, isn't it? You're getting close to.
Pretty close, yeah. I think
Yeah.
it's time for bed this end. I've got an appointment with Whippersnipper again tomorrow. So.
All right. Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Yeah. Good on you.
See you, John. Have a good night.
Yeah, good night, everybody. Thanks, Mark.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And you hung in there for the whole time.
Yeah, mate.
Good on you.
And whined a little bit, but
That's good.
good night.
Must be the tea cozy that did it.
Well, I was going to say, didn't they give you the full dose today, mate? Did they
I don't know where you live, but I can find out. All right. Good night, all.
See you, John.
John.
Cheers, mate.
Night all.